Hello, everyone. Welcome. Christian Child Care is a nonprofit DCFS licensed center and is accredited by the National Accreditation Commission. CCC is also an Accelerate Illinois Gold Quality Center. Along with our community partners, Independent Order of Oddfellows, United Way of Logan County, Lincoln Christian University, Lincoln Christian Church, and our First Presbyterian Church of Lincoln, we have proudly served Logan County for over 30 years and counting. 2020 has been a different year. Operating under a pandemic has thrown everyone a curveball. The pandemic has sparked fear and concern in our nation, but slowly communities and leadership have banded together to move forward. CCC has navigated through a mandated closure and created a pathway to reopen for our community. We wish to thank our CCC families who've been a blessing throughout the process with their support and understanding. To reopen, CCC's amazing staff has spent months training and revamping our program to align with new health and safety guidance, which have been ever changing. Their efforts allowed us to continue care. CCC staff, we thank you. These new health and safety guidelines have created new and additional expenses, both immediate and ongoing. These additional expenses are worrisome to a non-for-profit like ours. Limited group sizes and limited capacity have created a large financial hole for operational budgets. Although we are very appreciative of what our state leaders have already accomplished to financially support child care, specifically through the Illinois Child Care Restoration Grant, we cannot stop. More is needed to minimize the financial gaps. As a recipient of the Illinois Child Care Restoration Grant, we are pleased to host the Governor's press conference today as he shares information regarding the Restoration Grant and how it has impacted early childhood education overall. Governor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Libby, and I Could not agree with you more. We've been trying very hard to get more funding for childcare. We've been providing hundreds of millions of dollars here in the state. We're going to need more from the federal government. We've asked them for it. I'm hoping that they'll be moving forward with that relatively shortly, and I would ask all of our legislators in Washington, the representatives from this area and beyond, to expeditiously encourage the president and the rest of the Congress to step up to the plate to help state and local governments so that we can accomplish what is so important to Libby and to the families of CCC. I want to say good morning to everyone. A special thank you to Libby for hosting us here at Christian Child Care and for offering us the firsthand look, frankly, at what is really important to Lincoln families, and that's child care. I've always believed that we as a nation need to prioritize early childhood investments and programming for all of our children. And I'm glad to be here with Representative Tim Butler to hear and to talk with him and to hear what the concerns are of people of this district. And also, very importantly, to share the story of CCC and the families that attend here. It's one of the greatest joys of public service to see what a difference the right programs can really make in the lives of people that we serve, and especially our young children. So, Libby, let me start by saying thank you, especially for continuing to serve the children of Lincoln during this COVID-19 pandemic. I know it wasn't easy to implement all of the new health protocols, let alone to guide children through the uncertainty and hardship that COVID-19 has unleashed on their families. You and the people who work with you are the real heroes here, and I'm so grateful to you and your staff for assisting your neighbors through this pandemic. This has been an extraordinary time, truly unprecedented and very difficult, and it takes people like Libby, the leadership that she shows, to help us get through this difficult moment. Child care services are as much about a strong economy as they are about investing in our youngest children, both critical aspects of building an Illinois that works for everyone. So when I had to issue our stay-at-home order, Illinois also implemented an emergency support system that provided access to child care in small group settings for our workers, people who ensure our public safety and help others to get food and gas and pharmacy goods that they need. To help keep emergency child care centers up and running, the state offered one-time stipends and enhanced reimbursement rates for emergency child care to reflect the additional costs of providing care in smaller groups. This was not enough, but it was intended to help us all get through this difficult moment. I'm particularly proud that Illinois made sure that all essential workers, from nurses and doctors to grocery store workers and food producers, were eligible for the state's child care assistance program. That meant that what we enacted was making sure that the state covered nearly all of the cost of child care for all of those heroic essential workers. Before this pandemic hit, I promised that Illinois would become the best state in the nation for raising young families. The path forward has certainly become more challenging, but no less important. But my commitment, honestly, is stronger than ever. In March and April, we made significant investments to keep as much of our child care network up and running as possible. We paid providers as if all of their children remained enrolled so that staff could be paid as normal even if fewer children were in attendance. And later in the spring, I worked with the General Assembly to dedicate more than $270 million in additional funds from the Federal CARES Act to child care providers in these challenging times. The first state in the United States to build that kind of a program with our coronavirus relief dollars. Anyone who knows anything about what it takes to raise a family knows that without quality, affordable child care, there is no economic opportunity for working parents, and especially for working mothers. That's why even in these incredibly difficult economic times, Illinois directed federal pandemic response dollars to helping child care providers operate in safer, smaller group sizes without needing to impose large tuition increases on the families they serve. To date, I am proud to say that over half of the funding has already been distributed, including over $65,000 to the Christian Child Care Center. Remaining on track to become the best state in the nation to raise young children is achievable, even in these difficult times. Holding ourselves to the highest standard when it comes to our youngest children is vital to strengthening the social and economic fabric of our state and of our nation. This pandemic has taken so much from all of us. Tens of thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of livelihoods, countless little things that we took for granted, like hugs and handshakes, like weddings and proms. Those little things will return, but without our support, our already fragile, often underappreciated early childhood services sector will not. And that's why I'm pleased to be here to provide support for Christian Child Care program and to support quality child care across our state. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions from members of the media. There literally are thousands of child care providers across the state that are applying for these funds. $270 million goes a reasonably long way, but not enough, honestly. We think this pandemic will last for months going forward, and many of these child care centers have experienced real trauma over the last number of months. So we're hoping that the federal government will help step up to the plate and it'll allow Representative Butler and the members of the General Assembly and I to work together to help distribute even more funding for the child care centers across the state.
Where does the bulk of the funding come from? It's not federal government, all state money?
So as you know, state finances have been significantly tightened as a result of the failure of revenues from the COVID-19. There has been a significant drop in sales tax revenue, a significant drop in income tax revenue. That's happened in all 50 states. It's very challenging. I talk to governors across the nation who are experiencing this, all of whom need help from the federal government. It is very difficult. There really aren't funds in the state of Illinois for us to expand these programs under the current circumstances. So we're hopeful that the Senate, while they're in session, and hopefully, we've got another week or so while they're in session in Washington, D.C., and they've been talking about expanding the CARES Act or providing a new CARES Act to address the COVID-19 failure of revenues. We're hoping that they'll get to that in this last week and a half of September so that we can be supporting the families who need it from now through the end of the year.
There are a lot of home daycares, especially who are struggling now with the occupancy restrictions. They can't take as many children as they previously were able to.
Yes.
Is there any word on when they might be able to start taking a few more children, especially school-age children?
Yeah. So, as you know, throughout the pandemic, I'm not making political decisions about this. If these were political decisions, and what I have always advocated for, indeed for decades of my life, have been expanding childcare, expanding early childhood education. We need more of it, not less. The pandemic came along, and the doctors have said that we need to make sure that we're not putting too many children, too many childcare workers or education teachers for early childhood education together with children in the same room, and that's why the rules came out as they did. Many other states are following the rules that we have in place. I can't tell you when those rules will change because I'm listening again to the doctors and the epidemiologists who tell us, based on positivity rates, based on case numbers, based on hospitalizations, what they think is tenable in our state now.
And then switching gears a little bit, if I may, we know that there's been a lot of money and a lot of effort put into IDES, especially the new callback system to help people with that.
Yes.
So why are there still so many people that aren't getting called back and still need help? And what do you plan to do to help those people that have been waiting?
Well, I think you know that IDES is serving more than 1.5 million people, in fact, have applied for, sought benefits from the IDES system, from the unemployment system. Indeed, there are many hundreds of thousands of people, 750,000, who continue to get their unemployment claims paid. There are some who fall into categories that are more difficult. They can't do it online. They have challenges with it. They need to talk to somebody or meet with somebody, and COVID-19 has made it more difficult to do that. Not to mention that we have more than 10 times the number of people who've been calling into IDS on any given day than were calling in before the pandemic, and actually even 10 times, more than 10 times more than were calling in during the last Great Recession 10 years ago. So that caused many of the problems that we've seen for people who've got special needs that are beyond just a normal sign-up process that would normally occur. We're working very hard. We've put in new systems. We've hired people. We've brought in more than 500 people to answer phones every day beyond the 200 and plus people that were already doing that. So we're going to continue to try to build up those resources. It is very difficult. IDES was underfunded for many years. People just never thought, frankly, that we would ever reach or go beyond where we were in 2010 and the need, 2009, 2010, the need to respond to people with unemployment claims. But everybody's working very hard to try and overcome the backlog that has existed. Again, most of those have been in the people who've applied who have challenges in their application process.
We have time for one more question.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.